It was not a great weekend in New York for the Atlanta Braves as they lose the series and potentially Spencer Strider. We'll break it on down on today's episode of Locked On Braves.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. Today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Well, this is not a postcast. We're going live after the Braves lost to the Mets on Sunday. Lindsey obviously still traveling back, but wanted to catch up with everything that happened over the weekend like I typically do on our Monday morning episode. We're just going to do it on Sunday afternoon this time, and we're going to get into the hitting and the pitching over the weekend in New York. Everything bad that happened there. There was some good in there, obviously, as well. But I want to start at the top talking about the biggest news of the weekend in my mind, and that is the Spencer Strider injury, which becomes even bigger with what we saw from Bryce Elder on Sunday. If that is going to be the trend for Bryce Elder, and now you're losing Spencer Strider, suddenly this rotation is in a lot of trouble. But again, the big news from the weekend, the injury of Spencer Strider, kind of giving you the timeline of that. After giving up 7 runs in 3+ innings on Friday night against the New York Mets, Spencer Strider exited in the bottom of the 4th inning with what was labeled at the time as right arm soreness. Strider's four-seam velocity in that game started at 95.7 miles per hour in the first inning, which is great, but then it dropped to 93.9 in the second, 92.4 in the third, and then it crashed out completely at 88.7 miles per hour to begin the fourth before he was eventually pulled after a leadoff walk. It's worth mentioning, although I don't know how much of a factor it played into this, the game was delayed because of rain, and you never know how that affects the starter if they were already hot and getting warmed up. They announced the delayed start nearly an hour before game time, so I would think that Strider had plenty of time to adjust his pregame routine. But again, I think it's worth noting, especially when you consider Met starter Nolan McLean. He wasn't sharp at all in this game either. Now, the Mets got the big grand slam, and that was the difference. Braves had the bases loaded early and just didn't get the big grand slam. But McLean's fastball velocity, it started out at 96.4 in the first inning, and it was down to 94.8 in the fourth. It was at 93.8 in the third inning. So you saw some similar trends there for Nolan McLean, which maybe if you want to think positively, maybe that had more to do with it than we're giving credit for both Strider. Although for Strider, it didn't appear to be in a lot of pain when he was on the mound calling for the trainers. But after the game, Walt Weiss said that Strider did feel soreness in his shoulder and his elbow, which just sounds awful. On Saturday, the Braves officially placed Spencer Strider on the injured list with right elbow inflammation, which again doesn't sound great. He was scheduled to have an MRI on Saturday, but on Sunday, Walt Weiss said there is nothing definitive yet on Spencer Strider and that he will be evaluated by Dr. Keith Meister later this week. I think from that quote, we're to assume that that means the MRI results on Saturday were inconclusive. Pure speculation here, and we're going to do some of that on this episode, but that could also mean they just didn't like what they saw and they need a surgeon to verify that, or what they maybe think they saw, which again isn't great news. Dr. Meister obviously did the internal brace procedure for Spencer Strider, and he's, the go-to doctor these days for elbow injuries for pitchers. But it's never good when your pitcher is going to visit Dr. Keith Meister or seeing any surgeon. It's really hard not to speculate the worst for Spencer Strider. Obviously, if he needs to have surgery again, he'll be done for the rest of this season, possibly delayed to start 2027. 2027 might be delayed on its own because of the upcoming CBA, but thinking optimistically, and let's just say it is some general soreness, then maybe you're looking at him being out 2 to 3 weeks, allowing the shoulder and the elbow to just rest up, and then, you obviously ramp back up. I think the issue becomes at that point, how much do you really trust the shoulder and elbow of Spencer Strider if it's having that much soreness and you're seeing the velocity drop like that? Obviously, the longer a pitcher is out, the longer the rehab is going to last, especially for a starting pitcher. Again, I don't want to speculate, but I have to do some of that at this point just because we don't have all the information yet. But my gut tells me we shouldn't expect much from Spencer Strider the rest of the season and should assume that he's a non-factor. Kind of the same way that I've been approaching Spencer Schwellenbach. If he comes back this year and gives you anything like what he's capable of, great. But I'm not banking on that happening for Spencer Strider or now Spencer Schwellenbach, which is a huge bummer. That's potentially 2 top starters. And I know Strider hadn't necessarily been pitching like that, but that's 2 guys that you thought this year could be, 2 of your top 3 starters along with Chris Sale. And of course, we'll know more later this week after he meets with Dr. Meister, and we will talk then on how Alex Anthopoulos needs to respond. But I had already said that getting a top of the rotation starter needed to be the priority at the deadline. Now you're talking about the Braves potentially acquiring a few starters at the deadline. It's just not a great spot for the Atlanta Braves to be in. Certainly not what you were hoping for. I was very much hoping that Spencer Strider was just going to continue to get stronger and stronger. And with that new curveball, he had 2 really good swing and miss pitches. If he could just command the fastball a little bit better, I still feel like he has the potential to be a top of the rotation arm. And now I don't know what you're going to get from him the rest of this year, if anything. And if he's headed back for surgery, I really hate to say this, but he might just be done. Like, there is the real possibility if he has to have surgery again, he just might be done. And that is probably way too far on the other end of the spectrum of overreactions here, but it's a real possibility. And you look at the contract for Spencer Strider, and I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. He really only has 2 more guaranteed years. He's making $22 million each of the next 2 seasons. Then there's a team option for 2029. I, again, really want to be optimistic. Gut's just telling me that it's going to be something bad, but we'll have to wait till later in the week till we get further evaluation to see what's going to happen to Spencer Strider. Again, hoping for the best. Really just hate it for the person. I mean, I know these are players and we're sitting here as fans and we just want to see them perform and see the results, but there's definitely a human aspect of this that just really makes you feel for Spencer Strider and everything that he's gone through. But with him gone in the short term, J.R. Ritchie is going to step in and take his place, and he looked good on Friday. We'll talk more about his outing here next.
The NHL playoffs are here, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. And just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters. Their top option, Rugiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and can last up to 36 hours. And they also offer Go Long, designed to help you with both performance and control. Because it's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. So head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men.
The biggest stage in the world of soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. And now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. We've all seen those matches where it's scoreless for what feels like forever, and then one goal completely flips the game. Suddenly, everyone's pressing, the crowd comes alive, and the final 20 minutes becomes must-watch television. and now you get to benefit from each goal scored. Go to FanDuel.com to see all the World Cup odds. They have a separate tab on there just for USA games if you're like me, and that's probably all that you're interested in. Also, while you're there, please make sure you go to FanDuel.com/playwithaplan to help stay in control of the way you play. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with myself and other listeners of this show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonbraves.supercast.com to join it today. The Atlanta Braves lose their series in New York over the weekend, their first matchup against the Mets this year, and it did not go well at all. In fact, there was a couple of ugly games in there. Friday and Sunday in particular were pretty ugly. Saturday, they were able to squeak out a win, although the offense didn't put up a lot, but Martin Perez to the rescue as he's done a lot this year. I'm going to recap the pitching side of it first. In the final segment, we'll look at the hitting and also give you an update on Drake Baldwin and try to end it with some good news here. But on Friday, you lose 7-5, and this was the Spencer Strider game. He goes 3 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 7 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 3 home runs given up on 68 pitches. Even before the velocity drop and injury, things were looking pretty bad for Strider. Both homers that he gave up in the first were at the top of the zone. One, a slider that just hung on him, and a 96-mile-per-hour four-seamer that Soto got up to. Just a good swing by Soto. And then in the second innings where things just kind of unraveled on him. You saw that in the first inning on Sunday with Bryce Eldridge, we'll get to. You saw it in the second inning with Spencer Strider on Friday. He got 2 quick outs in that second inning, and then he gave up a double to MJ Melendez on 95 that was middle. And I think the real back-breaking moment in that second inning, he gave up a weak single on a really good slider away. And then he hits Binge with a 94-mile-per-hour fastball, which brought Bo Bichette to the plate. You did not want to see Bo Bichette in this series. He hits a grand slam. And it's just like you were so many times just one pitch away from getting out of that. You couldn't get the out. And then just the ultimate punch in the face, you give up a grand slam. And, instead of limiting the damage and just maybe giving up 1 or 2 there or none, like I said, you could have just gotten 1 more out somewhere in there and you get out of it without giving up anything. You give up a grand slam. And it's just one of those innings that snowballed. He made like I said, a really good pitch that could have gotten him out of it, but it goes for a hit and those things just happen. And then he couldn't lock back in after that. Bichette, pops the grand slam. And again, like I said, that's just the backbreaker. Of course, we don't know how much the injury was affecting him at that time, but it was a trend that Strider was on as he didn't look nearly as good in his 3 prior starts leading up to this. I had talked about it, when he first came back after the Colorado start. There's about a 3-start stretch after that where it looked like a Spencer Strider that could become that dominant top of the rotation arm again. But his 3 starts prior to this one, so now we're looking at 4 starts in a row, he started declining. He started getting worse with that. And I think part of that was the pitch mix. I've talked about, Austin Wynns the last 2 times when he's caught him. I didn't necessarily love the pitch selection, although Strider's in control of that too. Strider is one that he's not a Chris Sale. He will shake you off if he doesn't agree with you. But Strider was already trending in a bad direction. And then he has, obviously the injury. On the bright side, J.R. Ritchie came on in relief, 5 innings, 2 hits, did walk a couple of batters, but no earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 73 pitches, really saved the bullpen and really just made you feel a little bit better about, you don't feel great about losing Spencer Strider, but it eased the pain a little bit with J.R. Ritchie, having the performance that he had. And it's hard to completely judge a guy who was pitching in what felt like garbage time at the moment as the game was out of hand. I know it got close late. But the results were really impressive. He did, like I said, walk a couple of batters, and that's where he was really struggling with before. But it seemed like he was in more control of his pitches. He was very efficient through 5 innings. Had it been a normal start, he probably gets a chance for a 6th inning too. 73 pitches, 42 strikes is a really great ratio. Coming on the heels of a great start at AAA where he didn't walk anyone. I'm really hoping he's got the command dialed back in, because if he does, then I'm back to believing that J.R. Ritchie can be a solid number 3, number 4 starter for you. At least a guy that can go out there and give you 5 or 6 solid innings every time out. And that's what the Braves really need right now in their rotation. So again, trying to think optimistically, but now the last start at Gwinnett and then this outing here at the big league level, both have been a J.R. Ritchie who has better command. The curveball was excellent. He got 5 whiffs on 9 swings. That's the real pitch. Like, he has a lot of pitches he can go to. He doesn't have to have the dominant stuff to be successful, but that curveball, when it is on, it is a real difference maker. I would have liked to seen a higher CSW on the sinker, just 1 whiff and 5 called strikes for a 27% CSW. He really backed off the 4-seamer. He only threw it 5 times, got 0 strikes on it. Maybe that's part of this adjustment, because you go back to his first start in the big leagues, it was heavy 4-seam. So maybe that's part of this adjustment for J.R. Ritchie, is to back off the 4-seamer and start throwing that sinker a little bit more. Whatever the case may be, the Braves need him to step up in a big way. And it was a great first outing for him back at the big league level on Friday, and what was ultimately a loss for the Braves. On Saturday, they do get a 3-1 win. Martin Perez goes 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run. Was an inherited runner that came in to score. 4 strikeouts, just 71 pitches. I just can't say enough about how absolutely massive Martin Perez has been for the Atlanta Braves this year. Mauricio Dubon, Dominic Smith, they get a lot of the praise on the position player side of things, and they have been great. But I could argue that the contributions that Martin Perez has given you in the rotation are just as big, if not bigger. And I talked last week how Walt Weiss may need to start trusting him to go beyond the 5th inning. It's pretty much been a 5 and dive for Martin Perez, no matter what. No matter the results, no matter what his pitch count is, it's pretty much been 5 innings, we're pulling him out. And we saw Walt Weiss push him a little bit on Saturday into the 6th inning in a tight game. But after losing 3 in a row, it being a close game, he wasn't willing to risk it as a tying run came to the plate in the form of Juan Soto in the 6th inning. And I get that. But in order to help save the bullpen, he's going to need to lengthen the leash on Perez at times and let him, I mean, he was still just at 71 pitches in this game. And I loved the anger by Martin Perez getting pulled. You could tell he's a gamer. He wasn't, he wants to be trusted to go deeper into the game. I don't necessarily love showing up your manager and stomping around and pitching a fit per se. And I don't think he was intentionally doing that to show up Walt Weiss or anything, but I do love the passion and that he wants the baseball and he wants to earn that trust to be able to get through that situation. And I understand it too. I mean, it's a left on left. It is Juan Soto. And again, I think if you hadn't been on a 3-game losing streak, you continue to let him ride that out. But either way, Martin Perez, he's been fantastic. Only 3 hard hit balls allowed, an 81.4 mile per hour average exit velocity against is just absurd. And that's the 2nd time in a row that he's had an average exit velocity against in the low 80s. I think both of them were 81 miles per hour. That is just insane. Doing a great job of getting the ball off the barrel. The bullpen on Saturday, I mentioned Dylan Lee came on in the 6th to face Juan Soto as the tying run, got him to fly out, but then he did give up a single to Vientos that hurt Perez's line as that win as the earned run for Martin Perez, but he escaped with an absolute dot to strike out Simeon. Didier Fuentes came in, struck out the side in the 7th, and what might have been the filthiest inning that he has thrown. 5 whiffs on 8 swings. Velocity was up to 99. That outing really had me rethinking all the questions I've gotten lately on just making Fuentes a reliever, because that was some dominant stuff. Robert Suarez pitched a clean 8th. Iglesias had a weird 9th inning. He had a couple of long delays in there for a guy that normally works quickly. It looked like Juan Soto homered, but he didn't. And then you really just kind of wish that he did, since the run didn't matter all that much, as he was giving signs to the hitters that led to a walk. But then Iglesias got a huge double play to escape and get the save. And then on Sunday, Bryce Elder just got absolutely demolished. 4 innings, 10 hits, 2 walks, 6 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed, 75 pitches thrown. And he really just had nothing working in this game. Nothing went his way in that first inning either. And look, he was not good. The only thing that went his way was Soto bunting for some reason. I don't know why he did that, but thank you. Bryce Elder needed the help there. There were 2 borderline calls to Carson Bench to start that game. Both were called balls. At least one of them I know was a strike, and that led to a leadoff walk. And then I thought he rolled the perfect double play ball. So after Soto bunts, you get that out. You got runners on first and second, 1 out. He rolls the perfect double play ball to escape without giving up anything. But with the lefty up, they had Ozzie shaded towards first base, and it got up the middle for a hit. Twice that happened to Elder, where you had Ozzie shaded to the first base side with the lefty up, and the ball just kind of snuck up the middle on him. Again, Elder wasn't great, but I mean, he could have very easily gotten out of that inning without giving up anything if you're playing at normal double play depth. Ewing hit a ball in that first inning that was, just perfectly placed in the left field corner, and then throwing it back in, Yastrzemski hits a pole. I've never seen that happen before. And look, like I said, Elder was not good. I want to be very clear. Elder was not good. He had nothing working in this game. Pitches were all over the place. He couldn't throw the cutter to lefties. The slider wasn't breaking. Nothing was good for Bryce Elder on Sunday. Also, nothing went his way in that game. Even when he was making good pitches, it seemed like the Mets were all over it, which almost makes you wonder if he was tipping pitches. I mean, it got to that point. Either way, it's a throwaway start for Bryce Elder. You hope he rebounds. You hope this doesn't begin a bad stretch for Elder. He was on my 3 down last week because he hadn't been as good. He had been fine. He still had, 2 quality starts in his last 3 coming into this one. Now 2 of his last 4. But you just hope this isn't a trend for Bryce Elder, because now more than ever, you need him to be that guy that pitched like a top of the rotation arm to begin the season, or at least be that solid number 3 that is going to give you, a quality start every time out there. Go 6 innings of 3 earned or less. You really need that from Bryce Elder. All right, next we'll take a look at the offense over the weekend, which struggled on its own. I'll also give you an update on Drake Baldwin and where he is in his rehab that now might be delayed too. We'll get into all that here next. Baseball players are known for their routines, whether it's a lucky jersey, a pregame ritual, or sticking to the same preparation every day. Consistency matters. And when it comes to hair thinning, there can be a lot of products out there making promises, but not always a lot of confidence behind them. That's why more people are looking for solutions backed by real science and trusted experts. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand and the official hair growth partner of Major League Baseball. What really makes Nutrafol stand out is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's designed to fit into your routine while addressing the root causes of thinning with personalized solutions. When I'm deciding whether to try something new, I want to know there's real research and expertise behind it. Knowing Nutrafol is physician-formulated, clinically tested, and NSF certified for sport definitely helps build that confidence. Find out why Nutrafol is the only hair growth supplement brand trusted by MLB. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping today. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focused on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Take a look at the Atlanta Braves this year as an example. This past offseason, they made somewhat of a controversial managerial hire. They brought in a bunch of new faces, but they all had the same goal in mind, and they have pulled together to get off to a great start this season. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. All right, well, that wasn't great for the pitching over the weekend outside of a couple of things from J.R. Ritchie and the bullpen on Saturday. It wasn't particularly great for the offense either. Their best performance of the weekend came in a loss on Friday. They scored 5 runs on 9 hits, 4 walks, did strike out 13 times. That's way too many strikeouts. 2 extra base hits with a double and a home run, 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position, though. And that offensive line normally gets you a win. And the Friday night's game and Sunday's was definitely on the pitching. I love on Friday, though, that they didn't surrender, that they fought back. They gave themselves a chance. They had the tying run at the plate in the 8th and 9th innings, but just couldn't get that final big hit to complete what would have been an epic comeback. There were times in the game on Friday where the Braves hitters should have challenged. I know Austin Wynns had one here or there. Mauricio Dubon had a couple. Jorge Mateo had a couple in an inning where had he walked there, it probably at least leads to another run, assuming everything else works out the same. Pretty obvious, at least to us, seeing it on the screen with a box, that they should have challenged some of these calls that might have flipped a count. Everybody but Wynns on Friday, though, reached base. He was over 4 with 3 strikeouts. Catcher position just continues to be a blank spot in the lineup for the Braves, although Sandy Leon had a hit on Sunday. Overall, it was a really good offensive performance on Friday. It's just too much to overcome with, giving up 7 runs in the first 4 innings. On Saturday, they scored 3 runs on 7 hits, no walks with 10 strikeouts. Again, too many strikeouts, especially with not any walks. 3 extra base hits, though, a double and 2 home runs. 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Not nearly as good as an offensive performance, but you got the win regardless. This was really the Eli White show. He went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, a home run, a run scored, 2 runs driven in. And then Michael Harris came up with a huge insurance run, homering in the 9th inning. Thought it was an even bigger home run after it looked like Soto homered to start the bottom of the 9th inning. So just not a great day overall offensively for the Braves on Saturday, but they got the win. They got the hits that they needed. On Sunday, this really came down to the first inning. You had a chance to put a crooked number up on Freddie Peralta after loading the bases with no outs. Ozzie strikes out. Dominic Smith, of course, he comes through. He at least gets a sac fly so that you get something. And then Austin Riley pops up. And look, I see all the comments of those who are in here live. It's not great for Austin Riley, to say the least. I just don't know what the other options are. A lot of people saying Nacho Alvarez. I'm sorry. That's not it. I don't know what you do at this point with Austin Riley. He's getting paid a lot of money. He's going to get opportunities to play, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know what the better options are at the moment. Ha-Seong Kim's not working out great either for the Atlanta Braves. You can put Mateo at short and Dubon at third and Yastrzemski in the out and left, obviously against a righty starter. Riley's got to get something. Put me at third base. I don't know. Something's got to happen with Austin Riley. And I'm not blaming this whole game on Sunday on him. I'm just bringing it up because a lot of people in the comment section talking about it, and it's worth bringing up and talking about more because it is just a really rough spot in the lineup right now, and a guy that is supposed to be a big producer for you. And when you're missing 2 of your top bats in Acuna and Baldwin, you're really looking for him to step up, and he is hitting .203 with a .635 OPS. I will point out, you go check out Braves Today, where Lindsay had Heidi Watney on, and she is talking to some guys who had, that same sports hernia surgery, and they talked about how it took a couple of years to come back. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that. Like, I'm sure that's legitimate. I can't wait 2 more years for Austin Riley to figure this out when we've already had 2 years of injuries leading to poor production from Austin Riley. Maybe that is affecting him, although I don't think that's necessarily the reason for the poor decision. Teams are just spamming sliders and sweepers to him. Like, they know he can't hit them. He can't lay off of them. He can't square them up. And teams are just spamming sliders and sweepers to him. I really hope it's not a whole nother year that we have to wait and then say, okay, now Austin Riley's healthy, he's going to turn things. I'm sorry. That just can't be the excuse anymore for Austin Riley. And it's just frustrating. And again, I didn't mean to go on a rant here about Riley, but I did want to address some of those in the comments section here. The entire offense was bad on Sunday. Like I said, you had your chance in that first inning. After they didn't do anything there, it was a complete wrap. The Mets responded with 4 runs in the bottom half, and then the Braves ended the game with 1 run on 4 hits, and 3 of those came in the first 3 batters of the game. Another one came from Sandy Leon later in the game. You only strike out 4 times, but just, again, you let Freddie Peralta, you had a chance against Freddie Peralta to get to him. You didn't. Then he retires 13 in a row, and you don't continually put pressure on him and chip away to get back into the game, and it was just a wrap after that. You did knock him out after 5 innings, okay, but you didn't do enough damage against him to really give yourself a chance against the Mets bullpen. So just a bad game overall for the Braves on Sunday. Just a bad weekend in general. You lose a series. First time all year you've lost back-to-back series. I told you last week, I was hoping that I was overreacting, but I told you I felt like this Braves team was the most vulnerable that it's been all year. With the injuries to Acuna and Baldwin, with the rotation looking a little bit shaky. I had Strider and Elder both in my 3 down last week as they were trending in the wrong direction. I told you that it felt like this was the most vulnerable this Braves team has been all season. Doesn't mean that the season is over by any stretch of the imagination, but it felt like if the Braves were going to have a bad stretch of games, this felt like it. And so far it's turned out to be the case. Losing to the White Sox, losing a series to the Mets in the fashion that you did it, and now you lose Spencer Strider too, could be a bit of a rough time. Now, to try to end on a high note, Drake Baldwin started his rehab assignment over the weekend in Gwinnett. He homered in his first game, so that is certainly great to see. He caught 7 innings. But then on the downside, the Gwinnett's game was canceled on Sunday, where he was supposed to play again. Minor league teams don't play on Monday. If there were any chance, I think, of bringing him back on Tuesday to start that series, I feel like that's probably gone. You would likely want to see him catch back-to-back days before you reinstate him. So if that was the plan for the Braves, I think that kind of ruins it a little bit and maybe delays Drake Baldwin's return to maybe the weekend. I still think you probably get him back by the weekend at the latest, assuming he feels good, everything goes well, and that's going to be great news. And hopefully that gives this team the boost that it needs to get them on track and going again. So tough weekend for the Atlanta Braves, but I think there is some hope on the horizon with Drake Baldwin returning. Hurston Waldrop maybe working his way back. And I know the 4th inning in his last start didn't go well, but the first 3 looked really good as he's continuing to ramp back up. J.R. Ritchie looked really good in his outing. I definitely am not jumping off a cliff or anything on this Braves team with the week that they just had. I told you that was possible, that it could happen, but they will turn things around. I do truly believe that. So hopefully that will begin on Tuesday as they start a series against the Giants. We'll be back on Tuesday to preview that series. The minor league podcast I do with Gorov, that'll also be delayed this week. That'll come out on Tuesday as well. We got I got a special episode coming your way on Tuesday too. So look out for that. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Locked On Braves, especially those here with me live. Steve or Ramey. Yeah, maybe we get Eric Hartman up. That would put some juice into this Braves team. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, but who knows with the way that he's going. But thanks, Steve, for being here. Rod in here as well. Not James Earl, Moises Perez. Thank you all for joining me here on today's live episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. Thanks. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. Protect PR, Docs, Cards, on my everydayers in here live with me as well. Thanks so much for being here. Will be. Appreciate your support. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. Again, Lindsay will be back on Tuesday with a postcast. And until then, we will talk to you next time.